So I recently took in a double bill of the two Affleck brothers' latest films. So we got on one hand Live by Night, which is written and directed by Ben Affleck, adapted from the novel by Dennis Lehane. And then we've got the other Affleck, Casey Affleck, in Manchester by the Sea, which has just been nominated for a BAFTA for Best Film. I expect it will get nominated for an Oscar for Best Film. But yeah, that one is written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan. So let's start with Ben Affleck's effort, Live by Night. Gotta say, this was a big disappointment. This is coming off the back of a hat trick for Ben Affleck when it comes to his directing side of things. You know, Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, which was Best Picture winner at the Oscars. He's an incredible director. He's proven himself to be an incredible director. And I think this film as well has flourishes of that greatness, particularly in the action scenes. There's some absolutely thrilling action sequences in it, but they're not propped up on a story that is driven by a character that I can care for. And that's primarily down to Ben Affleck's performance in it. He seems to drift through this film. He seems to coast through it like he just doesn't care. And I don't know if it's his personal circumstances in the past couple of years that maybe have made him lose focus here, but he just doesn't seem to be in it. The writing as well is no way near as good as his previous efforts. Now, this is a blip, I think, on his writing / directing career. I don't think this is, a sign of who he is as a writer and director, because, like I say, 3 times in a row he's proven himself. Now, he didn't write Argo, but he did write Good Will Hunting. So, yeah, very mixed bag, this film, because I so want to root for Ben Affleck. And like I say, really excited going into this. I'd heard some bad reviews when I went in, but I was still optimistic because, like I say, those 3 previous films he'd done. And it just feels quite generic. And the script, like I say, is obvious in many places. Like the dialogue doesn't feel as well done as his previous efforts. It feels heavy-handed sometimes. There are times when there's conversations going on between Affleck's character and his best friend in the film, and you kind of think like where 2 sentences would do, like 2 lines of dialogue between them would do, he'll put 5 or 6, and you're like, that's not what I've come to expect from Ben Affleck. So yeah, quite a disappointment. Now, by anybody else's standards, your average Hollywood filmmaker, I'd say this is quite a good film. I think it's because it's from Ben Affleck that we're probably, well, I, at any rate, I'm maybe judging this to a higher standard. It is an entertaining film in many parts. However, like I say, overall, just a disappointment. It looks beautiful. There's some good performances in it, but you just feel like you've seen it all before. It's been done to death, and I don't think that Affleck brings anything new to the table. What I will credit him for is he does try to tell a story about faith or belief, and or the lack thereof, and how that can shape a man's worldview. I don't think he quite hits with it. Whereas we've had the recent effort from Scorsese, which really went into faith in a big way with Silence. I thought that was a perfect film, near perfect anyway. This kind of misses that goal. I think it's an admirable effort, but he doesn't quite get there. So yeah, in all, bit of a disappointment. I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. When I actually rated this on Letterboxd, I gave it a 3 out of 5. But just talking about it now, processing my thoughts, getting it out, yeah, I'm not sure I can justify that rating. I think I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. So what about Casey Affleck? He's in Manchester by the Sea. Like I say, written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan. This is a fantastic movie. Absolutely stunning piece of cinema. Casey Affleck, I hope, will pick up the Oscar for Best Actor. My money was on Jake Gyllenhaal before seeing this, and if Jake Gyllenhaal gets it, I'd still be happy. Affleck definitely gives the performance of his career so far. He plays this man who loses his brother and then finds out that his brother essentially left his son to him in his will. He wants him to take on his son. The problem is he has a tragedy in his past that kind of is revealed halfway through the film. We see these flashbacks as the film is going on, so we keep going to the present and then we see a flashback, and the two kind of converge in the middle of the film to reveal this man's past, which I think most people kind of see coming, not necessarily the how, but the what. And once we get to that what, which I must say is absolutely heartbreaking, just really hits you hard. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was in a full screen at the time, and I really had to fight very hard not to cry and blubber like a baby. Now, anyone with kids is really, I think, going to feel the weight of this film, and particularly the weight that is on this character's shoulders. It's a really great film that kind of takes humour out of mundane, everyday kind of life situations. And yet on the other hand, we have this extreme trauma that is kind of this family has to deal with, that is dealing with on a daily basis. And we get to a point where we realise that actually this kind of trauma doesn't go away. This isn't a Hollywood movie. This isn't a kind of movie where, you know what, we get some kind of big reconciliation at the end and someone is able to move on. You know, so if you're looking for that, this probably isn't the film for you. It's very much reality based. It shows how a man will live under certain circumstances and situations, and how these things will plague him, and how, I guess, he just manages to carry on but not get over it, not have his life fixed, not kind of walk off into the sunset at the end, a changed and renewed spirit. You know, he's still quite broken, but I don't think that's spoiling anything for you going in. I think it's just preparing you, because the journey is still just, you know, absolutely fantastic. It's not a perfect film. I do think there are a couple of things that let it down. I didn't particularly like the soundtrack. It's just me. I found it well too intrusive. There are a couple of moments where Lonergan uses classical pieces of music, and those scenes work beautifully. The actual score for the film, I didn't like all that much. It felt just, it grated, to be honest. It got under my skin in the wrong kind of way. Thankfully, there's actually very little of it. Most of this film works without any kind of score at all. It's not one of them films that tells you all the time how to feel with a score. And it's because of that, I think, that when we do get the score, it is a lot more noticeable. So, yeah, that's one element. The other is that there's a moment when you can't help but think that Lonergan is just having a bit of a crack at Christians. Christians are boring. This is the stereotype. We get that at one point in the film. Now, it's played for humour, and I think that it is kind of humorous, but it also doesn't really fit in with the rest of the film, because up until that point we've had very real, very polished, very fleshed out characters, and I feel like these two characters that we get, these two Christian characters, are more caricature, and they don't fit in with this film. You know, I'm not against mocking Christians. I know we've done more of our fair share of shenanigans to warrant being mocked, but when it's in this kind of film, the tone suddenly shifts. It's not right for me. It didn't fit in with the film. That's a 5-minute scene, though. You know, in what is otherwise an over 2-hour movie. and a brilliant one at that. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's absolutely stunning. It definitely deserves its nominations, and if it wins, I'll quite happily go along with that as well. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5. So clearly the winner of the Affleck double bill in this case is Casey Affleck. An admirable effort from Ben Affleck, but let's hope it's not a sign of things to come with his directorial version of the Batman. Yeah, there you go. So that's it. Have you seen either one of these films? And if so, what did you think about them? Comment below, let me know, and until next time, thanks for watching.